Hello students, this is a video regarding user defined function chapter. See, this is a user defined functions. After functions which we have dealt already, that is a library function. So in after this chapter functions, we have user defined functions chapter. In C++, we have so many concepts which are inbuilt or which will help us to write a program, such as array concept or structure concept, even functions, as well as now we are dealing with user defined functions. So before going to user defined functions, you must have a clear idea regarding what is the difference between the functions which we dealt in the previous chapters and also the this upcoming chapter, that is user defined function. What is the common difference is the functions which are inbuilt, which are already defined in C++ programming language is called as functions. These are also called as library functions. Why we need functions is in order to easily understand the program, easily manage the program, easily write the program. We can just make a task into, we are just subdividing the task. So functions we have already seen and you have already dealt with that chapter. So I'm not going to explain again. In those function chapter, you have already seen the inbuilt functions such as character functions, lot many mathematical and string functions you have already studied. So after functions, now I am going to explain you what are these user defined functions, how to write our own function, how we are creating our own functions, how we are using them in our program. After creating a functions, user defined functions. What is user defined function is, these are the functions which is created by the user himself. Who is the user? Who is the programmer? He is creating our own program. So we, the user, we are creating our own program. We are defining our own functions. So these such functions are called as user defined functions. These are not related to library functions. Library functions are all these are already inbuilt. These functions are already inbuilt in C++ program, and if you use those functions, then we will use particular header files. If we are using some mathematical functions, we will use mathematical header files. If we use, that is mat.h. If you use a string function, then you have to use string.h header file. But if you use some user defined function, these are the functions which are independently created by user himself. So we are not using any other header files also. We are just creating a user defined functions in this chapter. So what is this? We are going to understand the different concept of these functions now, and also there are different types of user defined functions. User defined function is not like it is one type. There are 5 different types of user defined functions. So now we will see what are user defined functions and how we are going to use it in our program. See, now I will just explain with a simple program. This is a program regarding finding a cube of a number. So here I am writing this program to find the cube of a number. So what is the cube of a number? If I write as 2 into 2 into 2, this is a cube of a number. It is nothing but it is written as 2 to the power 3. So what is the value of 2 to the power 3? 2 into 2 into 2. That is 2 to the 4, 4 to the 8. So answer will be 8. This is simple mathematical calculation of cube of a number, and now we are going to write a program which is to find a cube of a number. This is a simple program. Instead of writing in a main function all this concept, I can also write this x into x into x. Instead of writing this, I can just mention here n into n into n, which is a cube. Cube is equal to n into n into n. But I have not written in such a way. I just wrote this entire concept in one function. I have made a separate module here. This is nothing but user defined function. So this is a user defined function. This is defined by me. Here I have written one function. So how to write a function is, first I have to specify the data type of the function. What is data type? Data type is nothing but what type of value it will return. I am specifying here that what type of value this function will return to the main function whenever it is called. So what is you just need to understand what are these. So first I am going to start from here. This is user defined function. This is nothing but you have to use a general form which we have already given in the that Xerox or notes. See, this is a general form is this is nothing but data type, specifier name, function name, and then all those, these are called as parameters, and this is a return statement. That is nothing but it is a general form. It can be written as data type, and this is nothing but function name. This is function name, and we have values or parameters. It can be also called as parameters, and then we have a return statement. This is nothing but a general form of a function. In briefly we have given it in a Xerox, so you just refer to that. Now I will just explain with an example. See, this is a function. This is a user defined function. I have written int. Int is nothing but it is a data type. I am telling, or I am specifying here as my function name is cube, and this cube function has, or it will return a value that is something x into x into x. I don't know what is the value of x now. So I have not inserted any value to x here now. For a while, just you remember, it will return an integer type of value. What is integer type of value? It is a simple numbers without any decimal points or without any fractions or something simple number. So now we will start from here. See, in this program I have just included #include iostream.h as well as conio.h, but I didn't mention any other header files, special header files which we include in our programs when we use library functions. See, this is a user defined function concept, and here I am not going to include any special header file for such user defined functions. Okay, in main function we have these many lines. What are these? Now let us see. See, this is a you have already know what is this line. This is nothing but variable declaration. Here n is a variable and it is of type what? It is of type integer. That means I can insert the value to the n here whenever I ask from the keyboard. Whenever I ask from the keyboard to the user that enter some value, enter a number, then I can put or insert only the integer value, that is only simple numbers. But I cannot use any fraction values or decimal values. That is nothing but integer. You have already know that concept. See, here I have declared. This is a declaration statement. Whenever we write a program, before using those variables or before using these terms, first we have to declare that I am using these and these n, x, y, etc. in my program. So I cannot directly use this n or x or whatever it may be. Those variables I cannot use it directly. So similarly, in same manner, I cannot use the variable without declaring it. So similarly, there is a even in our user defined function, there is a concept called as defining a function, or sorry, declaring a function. What is declaring a function? This statement is called as declaring a function. See, this is called as declaration of a variable int n. This is nothing but declaring n is a variable of type integer. The name of the variable is n here and it is of type integer. What is this statement is called as? This statement is called as declaration statement or declaration of variable. This is nothing but concept of declaration of variable. So what it means, we are declaring a variable here. This is a simple concept. So now just come to the first line. What is this? This is an int cube of int. You can also write it as int cube of int, or you can also mention it as int cube of int x, just as this. You can also write x here, or you can just exclude it. That doesn't matter. You can write it in two ways, int cube of int, or you can also write it as int cube of int x. Both are correct. You can use any of the way. See, here I am including semicolon at the end of the declaration statement. This is nothing but declaration statement. We don't call it as declaration statement generally. We call it with the name as function prototype. This is called as function prototype. This concept or this line is called as function prototype. What is this function prototype? It is nothing but we are declaring a function before using or before calling the function. Before calling the function, where I have called this function is here. I will go to that next. So before using that function, so before using n here, I just declared it. In a similar manner, before using any function in a program, you have to declare it. So this concept is called as function prototype. So I hope it is clear now what is function prototype. This is a very important concept in a function. Function prototype is nothing but it is a declaration of a user defined function. Before I have already written a user defined function here. Before using it my program, before using it or before calling it in my program, I just declare this function. So this is nothing but it is a function prototype. So coming to the next statement, enter a number C in n. Now here I will just place n as 5. This is my value 5. C in n is nothing but 5. I have clearly mentioned here n is 5. Now let us see what happens next. The cube of the number is, that cube of 5 is, it will be displayed or value will be stored in this. So now what is this? Instead of writing a simple variable, I have written a function name here. What is this name? Cube of n. What is this cube? This is, see here, cube of some variable. What is this? This is a user defined function. Where I am calling this name, see, I have so many students in class. When we give an attendance, we will call a particular name. So when we call, that student will get up and he will answer. That is what return value is. This function, whenever I am calling this function, the control will move to the particular function. Here, whenever the compiler comes here, the control comes here, it will check what is this cube of n. This is nothing but it is a user defined function. Where I have declared it, that already I have declared here that I am using such function cube of something. So here I will just write this name cube, that is function name, and I will just pass a value. This is n. See, one more thing important is here the cube of n, I am passing n value here, and n is of type integer. I have already specified that cube of this is int. So I have to match these two values. It should be int as well as this variable n is which is declared. That variable which I am passing to a function, that should be also a integer value. That you have to keep in mind. I cannot use like float n and int cube of int. These type also it should be matched. So these it should be same, one and is same. I cannot use something like if you have a Hindi class, all the Hindi students should be going to that class. You cannot, all those Kannada student you cannot mix up and go to that class. So there is some rules and regulations with the type. Always you just concentrate on the function and that return type or whatever value we are passing. See, in cube of n, I am passing an integer value. That is, n is an integer value. There is no problem with those aspects now. I am just passing a integer value, cube of n. Whenever I pass this, whenever I call this function name, I just calling here. I am just calling a function name here. What happens is when the this call happens, the control will move in search of this function name. Where it is? Now I have to go. That control will search for a program list. Now it will find the appropriate function name. I have found here cube of int x. Now after this I have get ch. So that get ch you just leave it there. Just even the endl is not considered here. Whenever the control comes to this word, it will just move on to the particular user defined function. In search of user defined function, it is going now. Now it will check for the appropriate function. I have found cube here. So this is a function with int x, that is a value which I have passed. See, here I have value n. I am passing n. But I am not using any n into n into n. So what is this? This is some another concept. There is one more concept. So before going to that, I will just explain you regarding this line itself, cube of n. So what is this? We have one more name for this. This is nothing but function call. This is function call. This statement or this word, this concept we use, that cube of n, which we are passing in such a way, cube of n. This statement is called as function call. Whenever function call occurs, it is just like an invitation. Whenever you want to go to a function, you cannot go without someone's invitation, right? So we have a function here. We have an invitation here. So in the invitation, first we will see where the function is going to be conducted, where is the venue, and when we are using or when we are going there, at what time the function will be. So all those details where we will see in the function call. So whenever function call occurs, we will first check what type of value we are passing, how many values should be passed to a function. I cannot pass two value here because I have only one value intake here. I have already defined. So all these three lines are interconnected. This function prototype, what I am declaring, the function statement which I am defining, this is called as function header, and even this function call, all these three statements are interconnected. I cannot use here two values. I cannot pass two values to a single prototype function. So that you must know about these user-defined functions. Those are important concepts. See here, function call. Now I got a function call. Whenever function call is given or a function call comes or it is encountered, this control will be passed to a particular function. See, whenever the control comes to this function, now what happens in function is, there is one more concept called as actual arguments and formal arguments. See, there are so many concepts in this chapter, but it is very easy if you understand it. There are actual arguments as well as formal arguments. We have two concepts here. One is actual arguments and another one is formal arguments. What is the difference is, actual argument is nothing but, now see, I have entered the value to which variable, whether I have entered or I have used in main function as x, no. I just entered value 5 to which variable, that is n. See, I am passing this n here. In a function, I am passing value n here. This is an actual argument. Actually, this has some value. It possesses some value, right? See, this n is an actual name. It is nothing but original name. N name, it is a name of a variable. This is an actual name of a variable and it has some original value which is stored in it. Now, what I am doing is I am passing a value n here. That means I am passing the value 5 to this some function, some user-defined function which I have written. That user-defined function, I am passing some value here. See what happens when it comes to a user-defined function. I have just changed some name here as int x. I can also use int n, but I just changed the name of this variable. So why I have changed is, here I am not directly using this n value, but instead I am using some other variable, and this is called as formal argument. Actual argument is nothing but one which is included in the function call. I can just say that the arguments which we are passing in function call is nothing but actual argument. But what is this formal argument? Formal argument is nothing but which is included in the function header. So in user-defined function, this first statement is called as function header. This is called as function header. And what are these? After this flower braces, closing and opening braces, whatever comes, it may be a single line. In this program, this is only a single line statement. But if you refer in the further programs, see here, this is also user-defined function which I am going to explain later. Even in this function, there are so many formulas, there are so many statements, executable statement, and after at the end I have a return statement, right? So whatever number of lines it may be in a user-defined function, this will be all at most last, this is a last statement. Return statement is the last statement in the user-defined function. See, this is an user-defined function and it has only one statement, and that itself is a return statement. I don't have any executable statement more. So here there are no executable statement. I just directly I am going to return statement here. A function can consist of a single return statement or it will not consist of a return statement. That I will explain you later. See, just see this user-defined function now. Concentrate on this. The first line, this first line is called as function header. And whatever written inside this function is called as function body. This is nothing but function body. How many lines it may be, that I'm specifying again and again. This function body may consist of any number of lines, and at last it will contain a return statement. That also, this return statement, it is also not compulsory, but it is bound to this data type or type of the function. See, that way I will explain later. Just you remember now, if a return statement is written in a function, if I have specified a return statement in a particular user-defined function, then it will always be a last line in a function. That you just remember now. Because I cannot write any other lines after return statement. Return statement is like final statement of the user-defined function. Here this is a function header and this entire thing is called as function body. Now you are clear with the function concept, user-defined function concept. Now see, there is a function call. I have been invited to attend this function by using an invitation. So by referring this invitation, I am going to particular function now. This function, either I can return with something, some sweets or something like that. I can return with a return statement, or it will not return any value. There is both possibilities. And whenever I am going to a function, if I have only one pass, then I can only attend a function. If I have two pass, such as cube of n, m, if there are two values I am passing, then I have to mention here as int x, int y. So that you must be exactly with this topic. See, I am passing here only one values. So I have, since I am passing one value, this is also, there is also one formal argument. I cannot use like this by passing only one value. I cannot pass two values for a single statement. So those must match. Now I am passing n here. This is an actual argument. As I have already informed earlier, this is an actual argument. N is my actual argument. Now I am passing this to a function, user-defined function named cube, and here I have changed its name as x int x. So what is this x now? This is nothing but formal argument. This is a name. I have given a different name to a particular variable. I have created a different variable here, and I am passing value n to x now. Now, in this function, I cannot use this n into n concept, because there comes again two more concepts called as local variables and global variable. See, this is also one important concept, local variable and global variable. What are local variables? Local variable are nothing but whenever this main, what we call it as a main is nothing but it is one function. Each and every program, in each and every C++ program, whether it has a user-defined function or not, that is not compulsory, but compulsorily it will contain a main function which we are using in each and every program. See, this is not user-defined function. This is a important function. This is a main function. It is always used in C++. This is one important function. And we can write this user-defined function here after writing main function, after closing main function, or we can also write this function before the main functions. See, that you must be clear with. Here I am using this user-defined function after the main function. Even I can write it vice versa. Just I can include this user-defined function above the main function also. That is the form or style of writing a program. What is this local variable? Local variable is nothing but if a variable n is declared inside some function, then n value will be available only within this function. This is the end of the function, that this specifies the end of the function. This n cannot be used or called in some other function other than which it is declared. So x is declared in this function, I can use x here. I cannot use x in main function or some other function if I declare some other user defined function. Here n is declared inside this function, so n has a scope only within this function. If you students are admitted to particular RNS college, then you are a student of RNS college. You are not available to some other colleges as a student. So similarly, this is n is a variable. It is declared inside one function. It cannot be used outside that function. The same value n I cannot use here directly. So what I am doing is I am creating a formal argument here. What is this formal argument? This is something like I am creating new instance and I am just passing a value to here. Now I will use x into x into x. So what is global variable? I will explain in one different program in next concept. So just remember, I cannot use n here directly. So I am creating a local actual argument and formal argument concept here. This is a formal argument and then I am using that in my particular function. In user defined functions, I am using this. So this is regarding the basic concept of user defined functions.